Welcome to episode 6 of In the Abstract, the Lakeland Title podcast. I'm your host, Brian Johnson, the owner and founder of Lakeland Title in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. For this episode, I thought we would talk about real estate closings during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've been doing this pandemic thing for about 6 months, so we've kind of learned how to do things in a pretty streamlined and convenient way for customers, so I thought I'd just do an episode where I shared with you what we're doing. I'm not sure what other title companies are doing because I don't work for them, but I can just tell you what our procedures are and kind of how things are working during the pandemic for real estate closings. And I can also share with you what some realtors have told me about how they're doing business and how they're doing things in a way that can keep people safe. Now, as I said before, I'm just going to go over what we're doing because every title company is going to function a little bit differently. They're going to have their own ways of doing things. Also, every state and parish or county, if you're outside of Louisiana, is going to have different rules and regulations of how they should conduct business. So I can't really speak to what's going on in other places, but I can just talk about what we're doing. So the first thing we do is that our office is cleaned regularly. So after a closing, we're cleaning the chairs, the pins. We're actually encouraging people to take the pins with them that they use during the closing, so we don't have to worry about cleaning them. We're cleaning off the table. We're cleaning off the door handle. Basically, anything that someone touched during the closing is cleaned after the closing is over. So you don't have to worry about when you're coming in for a closing if there are, other people's germs on those, pins that you're touching or chairs that you're sitting in or the table that you're at. We also have masks available. We do require masks to be worn the entire time during the closing. We will let you take them off temporarily if you want to take a picture, but otherwise, during the whole transaction, you're going to have to wear a mask. If you happen to come to the closing and you forget your mask, we have a whole box of masks available at our front desk that we can give you one. They're disposable, medical-grade masks, so you don't have to worry about that. We're also keeping the amount of people that are in the office to a bare minimum. So at most, whenever you're at a closing, it's going to be me and maybe one other person. But generally, you're only going to come in contact with me. That other person, you won't ever have to come in contact with them. So you won't have to worry about being in contact with a whole bunch of people when you come to a closing. Now, as far as the other parties are concerned, we have been allowing buyers and sellers to be in the same room. We keep them, pretty distant because we have a large conference table, so we keep people kind of spread out. And we also allow their realtors to be there. Also, again, kind of spread out, and occasionally the lender will want to come, and so we can accommodate that. But generally, it's at most, you're talking, me and 4 people, so 5 people total in a room. That's a pretty good sized room, so we can kind of keep people spaced out, so it's not too bad. But also, that's also up to the customer preference. So if, a buyer or seller doesn't want to be in the same room with a bunch of people, we can definitely accommodate that. We've done everything during this pandemic from just having just the buyer come in, just the seller come in, so that it's only me and you in a room, and that's it, nobody else. We've also done things like we can wear gloves. We have gloves available. If you want us to wear gloves during the closing, we can do that. We had a customer who wanted us to wear gloves. Of course, we were wearing a mask, and they also didn't even want to come to the building. So they wanted to do the closing in the parking lot. And so we did that. So we were all outside, we were wearing gloves, we were wearing masks, and we did the closing in the parking lot. Nobody had to be inside, and it was fine. We were happy to accommodate that. That was not a problem at all. Another part of our procedures is that we keep the doors to our offices locked all the time unless we know you're about to show up for a closing. At that point, we'll unlock the door, let the parties come in. If you are okay with the other parties being there, if it's just going to be you, then we'll just, when you show up, we'll unlock the door, you can come in. But we just don't want people randomly coming by the office or just people milling around. So we really try to keep the amount of people coming in and out of the building, to the absolute minimum that we can. And that's also something that you'll notice that is kind of a little different from the way closings used to be. If you had been to a closing before the pandemic, there was a whole lot of kind of milling around, chit-chatting, that kind of stuff. That's really kind of gone out the window. So it's generally just you come in, you do the closing, and you try to get out of there as fast as possible because, again, people aren't comfortable just kind of hanging around and being in a room with other people more than they really need to. So we've really worked hard on kind of speeding up our closings to kind of get you in and out as fast as possible. Part of that, a lot of the realtors now, they're required to turn in some documents to their brokers after the transaction. A lot of times they'll just want those documents sent to them electronically, so you don't have to wait for them to get copies. So generally, I'm only making copies for the buyers and the sellers, and it just kind of speeds things up. Another thing that you can do to, if you're interested in speeding up the transaction, is a lot of lenders have been doing what they call hybrid closings, which is you'll sign most of the documents electronically. So when you get to the closing table, you're signing about half as many documents as you normally would because you've e-signed most of the other things. And so that really speeds up the closing. It kind of cuts down the closing time at about half so that you're maybe at the closing table for, 30 minutes or so instead of, an hour or so, which would be a normal closing. So that's really helped kind of speed things up and let people just kind of, get in, get out, go about their day, take off their mask when they get outside, that kind of thing. So they're not just kind of sitting at the closing table for any longer than they really need to be. So on a basic level, like I said, we're doing the cleaning, we're making everybody wear masks, we're trying to get you in and out as quickly as possible. We're keeping everybody kind of socially distant. We're having that hand sanitizer available, having the masks available. That's kind of what we're doing on our end. But anything else, it's really up to the customer preference. Like I had said before, if you're not comfortable having anybody else at the closing other than me, I need to be there. We can accommodate that. If you're okay with, the sellers being there and your agent being there and the other agent being there, that's fine too. We can do it kind of any way that makes you most comfortable. If you just want it to be me, you, and your agent, and that's it, we can do that. We can accommodate that. So it's really, you just have to kind of express to your title company how you would like things to go. Like I said, we did that closing, in the parking lot for somebody who didn't want to come in the building. That's completely fine. We have no problem with that. It's really whatever makes you most comfortable. That's what we're going to try to do. Because, it's your closing. We don't want it to be any more stressful than it already kind of is because you're buying a house or you're selling a house, and that can be kind of stressful. So anything we can do to make you feel more comfortable, we're more than happy to accommodate that. And some other kind of things that may really speed up closings that hasn't happened yet. Some other states have done it. Louisiana's kind of looking at it, and we're kind of trying to figure it out, is remote online notarization. So this would be a situation where you could have documents notarized remotely, online. There's a whole procedure for it, how you verify somebody's identity in that kind of situation. So there's a whole way that you can do that, but it would be a whole new way to, you wouldn't even have to come into the closing. We could just do it all online remotely. You could do it from your living room couch, and that would be a way that we could really reduce the amount of contact that people are having with each other, and it would kind of also maybe speed up closings a lot too. So that's something that the state's trying to get worked out. So we don't have it in Louisiana yet. Some other states have it, and it's worked out pretty well for them. So we're going to try to get that here, but it's still in the works. We don't have it yet. So for any of the documents that need to be notarized, you are going to have to sign those documents in the presence of a notary. There's just no way around that in Louisiana. But there are a lot of the loan documents that can be e-signed. You just have to ask your lender about that. You just have to tell them, look, I don't want to spend unnecessary time at the title company. Can I e-sign any of the documents that I can in this transaction? And usually most lenders have a procedure for that, and they're used to it. And so they can just have you e-sign a bunch of the documents so that you're not at my office any longer than you need to be. So that's something you should definitely ask your lender about if that's something you're interested in. Now I'm just going to kind of talk about what I've seen realtors doing on their end. So this is by no means an extensive list of what realtors are doing to keep their clients safe during COVID. This is just what I've heard from the realtors I've talked to just in conversation. So, feel free to ask your realtor or, any other realtor you may run into, how they're kind of handling this if you're interested in a more extensive list of what's going on. But this is just kind of what I've heard in conversation. So a lot of times realtors are doing pre-showings for clients. So instead of a buyer going out to see a variety of houses, the realtors are just going out there by themselves, looking at the houses and kind of getting an idea, maybe taking some pictures, maybe getting on a FaceTime with the client and just kind of see, is this really something we need to, truck out here and see, or can we skip this one and move on to the next one? So that's one thing they're doing to kind of minimize the amount of time that people are are milling around and going to strange places and things like that. Virtual tours have also become pretty big. Most of your listings now are going to have a virtual tour component, or they at least have more extensive pictures so that you can really get a better idea of what the house is like from the listing online, or that your realtor sends you, rather than having to actually physically go to the house and take a look at it. So that's some of the things they're doing. They're cleaning, before and after showings. They're cleaning those touch surfaces so that everything's safe and sanitized when somebody comes by to see it. A lot of the listings will have hand sanitizer on site. They'll have gloves there sometimes. The touch surface thing isn't as serious as we thought before, so a lot of that may have died down, but that's something that was happening. A lot of your new construction, since there's nobody living in the house and there's no furniture or any kind of stuff in there, a lot of the new construction is what they will do is the realtor will come, they'll open the house for you, and then they'll just kind of let you roam around on your own. So you don't have the realtor right next to you if you don't want to have contact with somebody else, and you can just call them on the phone and ask them questions that you might have while you're walking around the house, touring the property, or you can just, step outside, ask them a question, go back in. Some customers prefer that. They don't want somebody walking around the house with them, so they'll kind of take that method, and it's worked out well. Again, it's new construction, so there's nothing there to really, anybody to take, so the realtor doesn't really need to be there monitoring you, so it's worked out well, and people seem to like it. Open houses have started up back again now. There was a time when realtors weren't doing open houses, but they have started doing open houses again, and I've heard from some that the way they're doing open houses now is they're not just kind of letting everybody kind of come in anytime they want. They're kind of limiting, one family can come through at a time. They're not just letting everybody kind of roam around. So that's kind of the way things are different on the realtor end. Again, not an extensive list, just from what I've heard, just chatting with some realtors. So feel free to, ask the realtors that ask your realtor kind of how they're handling things, and you can kind of get, a more detailed list of what they're doing. But that's just kind of what I've heard, so just kind of throwing it out there. So that's kind of a rundown of how closings and real estate sales have kind of changed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, just like I said, don't be afraid to ask if you want some kind of accommodation. It's much better to ask for that accommodation so that you feel comfortable and you don't have to worry about that one extra thing on closing day. And believe me, your lender, your realtor, the title companies, none of us mind accommodating our customers. We love to do it, so don't feel bad if you want to ask for some kind of special accommodation. You're not bothering anybody. Nobody's mad about it. It's much better for you to just ask for what you want than to just have that extra amount of stress or to, be worried about it. Just tell us what'll make you comfortable, and we will be happy to accommodate you. Nobody will be mad at you. Nobody minds doing it. So if it makes you more comfortable, let us know, because we want you to be as comfortable as possible during the whole transaction. So we're happy to do whatever we can to make that happen. So that about sums it up. If you have any specific questions, something we didn't cover that you wanted the answer to, feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. You can find my company, Lakeland Title, on Twitter at Lakeland Title BR. We're on Instagram at the same thing, Lakeland Title BR. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BRClosing. If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at bjohnson, and I'm on Instagram at bgjohnson. You can also find me on Facebook. If you want to contact us through email, you can email podcast@brclosing.com, or if you want to email me personally, that's Brian, Bryan, at brclosing.com. Of course, we're over on Bluebonnet, and if you need to give us a call, we're at 225-387-5005. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, reach out if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.